if you were with us last week, I need to correct a mistake that I made. I had mentioned Romans 6, and I said 13, but I meant 6:23. So if you keep up with your bulletins, keep up with your outlines, go ahead and make a note of that. It's a lot easier to do it when I put these on YouTube because I can just put a little note at the bottom, hey, misspoke here, make sure you got it correct. So if you keep up with those, make sure you correct that in your bulletins. The next thing I'd like to do is I would like for all of our mothers, please stand up. You're not a mother.
I did not one.
Now, thank you. Give our mothers a round of applause. You may be seated. Kind of echo what William said this morning. I don't think there's a child out there that can claim that it was easy on their mothers. Many mothers have cursed their children by telling them, I hope your child acts just like you. And a lot of times that comes true. Because usually if you're bad as a child, your children are twice as bad. So luckily I was good as a child, but my children are twice as good. So thank you to our mothers. Mother's Day and Father's Day are particularly difficult for me. Some of you may know I was raised by my grandparents, and I called them mom and dad because they're the only ones that I knew from 5 months on. And they both passed away in the same year within a matter of months of each other. So these are particularly difficult days for me. But if you look in your bulletin this morning, you'll find an outline if you'd like to follow along with us. And I noticed this morning when I was looking, I didn't put the complete title of the sermon in there. So if you want to write this down, the title of the sermon is Calling All Mothers. It's time to step up and step in. And we're going to explain what I mean by that as we go through our message today. The mothers are often the most influential person in the lives of their children. Mothers teach us, train us, comfort us, love us, and pray for us in ways that nobody else can. The prayers of mothers are very powerful. There are many people that have become Christians simply because of the prayers of their mother. Mothers have responsibilities both in their home as well as within their community. Now, I don't know who wrote this, but it's a very good illustration, I thought, for this morning. It says, this is a Mother's Day sermon. I'm preaching without apology, with appreciation for that time. Honored institution, without the benefit of which we wouldn't be here. Every Mother's Day sermon I've run across starts with an explanation. This one is no exception. As ministers, we're reminded not to get too sentimental about motherhood because A, for some, motherhood is an accident and not always a welcome one. B, for some, biological motherhood is impossible. C, for some, mothers weren't all that nice. D, for some, motherhood under the very best of circumstances is still less than a bed of roses on a primrose path. If I take some liberties with Wilhelm Busch's words, I have to say, to become a mother is not so difficult. On the other hand, being a mother is very much so. So with all those qualifications, why bother with Mother's Day at all? I'll tell you why. Because with all of its stumbling blocks, pitfalls, and broken dreams, for all of the soiled diapers, soiled wallpaper, and soiled plans, we're talking about a beautiful ideal, a natural part of God's creative plan to bring love and caring to light. motherhood is a constant demand for the gift of love and caring. Now, like I said, I don't know who wrote that, but it definitely describes what our mothers are here for. As I said, mothers love and care for us in a way nobody else can. There's something special about mother's love. But yes, Mother's Day can be difficult for many. It can be difficult for those who are without mothers, whether they have passed away or whether they have absentee mothers, or they have mothers which are more concerned about themselves than their children. Whatever reason, there are many children out there without a loving, caring, disciplining, teaching mother. It's a sad fact in our society today. But that is why today we are calling all mothers. We are calling all Christian, godly mothers to step up and step in for these children. Even if your children are grown, and you have grandchildren, or maybe you don't have any grandchildren, there are children right here in our community that need a mother-like figure in their life to step up and step in. Again, as I said, it's a sad fact for our society, but it's a true fact in our society. So the first thing I want to talk about is how we should treat the women in our church. But before I do that, I want to warn you fathers. In a little over a month, your day is coming when you are called to step up and step in. But today is Mother's Day, so we want to focus on mothers. So how should we treat the women in our church? Well, this is very important because the women in our church will need our love and support when they choose to step up and step into a child's life that needs them. The Bible gives us some instructions on how to do this. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 2, in taking a word from verse 1, treat older women as mothers and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. The reason I took treat from verse 1 is because it tells, Paul starts writing and he's telling Timothy how to treat the men of the congregation and also how to treat the women, but he didn't include the word treat in verse 3. But he's telling us how we should handle our relationships with the women in our church. Now, he was writing Timothy as to how he, as the pastoral leader of the church, was to handle his relationships with the ladies. But this relationship should extend to all of us in the church, the men and the women. First, we should treat the older women as mothers. Why? Well, the answer to that is simple. They have wisdom that they can share. They have life experiences that they can share. They have love that they can share. They have a caring and a praying spirit that they can share. We can lean on them for what they have to still offer as older women. They have so much that they can offer each of us that can help us through our daily lives. This is especially important for those who, for whatever reason, is without their mother. The older women can help those by giving advice that only mothers can give. Remember when my mom was alive, there were certain things that I could go and I could talk to her about. Things that only she can understand, that my dad either didn't care about or, dad just wouldn't understand. I know my children are the same way with their mother. But today, without my mom, I have to rely on other mothers for that same wisdom, for that same advice. I'm lucky and blessed enough that I have an older sister that I rely on quite often. Not everybody has that. Nowadays, there are more and more people who need the women in our church to step up and step in where their mothers would have, or where their mothers should be. Not only are we to treat them as mothers for how they can help us, but we also to show them a specific love, a specific respect for who they are. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 1, Paul told Timothy to treat the younger men as brothers, and in verse 2 he tells us to treat the younger women as sisters. We are to show them in mutual respect. We are to treat them as sisters in order to avoid any kind of suspicion, in order to live above any kind of accusations. Now, for those of you that have sisters, you understand this. We are to protect them as we would our sisters. We're to help them when they need help as we would our sisters. We're to guide them as we would our sisters when they need guidance. Again, as I said, Paul wrote this to Timothy as it pertains to his leadership, pastoral role in the church. And we need to be careful not to remove that from the context. But if all of us are to treat the older women as mothers and the younger women as sisters, we'll only grow closer and stronger as Christ's family in the church. We'll know that we can rely on the older women for their knowledge and their wisdom. And we know that the younger women can rely on us for their protection and for their security and for their needs. Mothers have responsibilities, both at home and in the community. And the specific responsibility I'm talking about first pertains to both. The responsibilities of mothers begin with raising their children. Now remember, the father is to be the spiritual leader of the home. However, unfortunately, again, in today's time, it's a very sad fact, but there are many absent fathers. Therefore, a lot of mothers are having to step up and step in and fulfill that role. Now, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to tell you, one of my best friends was raised by a single mother. And he is one of the most solid men I know in my life. But it's a sad fact in our society. We have so many absentee fathers. Many mothers in our society, however, are also failing in their responsibilities for whatever reason. Because of that, it's up to the mothers in the church to step up and step in. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it." By training up a child in the way he should go, mothers teach their children to respect others. Teach them to obey the authorities. Teach them to listen to their elders. Teach them to follow Christ in their lives. Teach them manners. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please and thank you. And as we see so often today, those terms aren't very widely used by children. A lot of our children don't respect anyone or anything. And it's because their mothers, for whatever reason, failed to train their children in the way they should go. Now, you may, as I said, have raised your children and they're grown. You may have children of their own. So now as a grandmother, you can still help their mothers in bringing them up in the way they should go. But what if you don't have your own children or you don't have grandchildren? As I said, there are many children right here in this community that could benefit from your training. There are programs that you can get involved in this community where children need you to be involved in. And if you can't find one, start one. In my understanding, the IBB School District is one of the best school districts in the state. But I guarantee you there are still children that have never experienced the true love and guidance of the mother that they need. So there's ways that you can get involved and help and step in and step up. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 15 says, "Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it from them." Discipline is also the responsibility of mothers. Folly, or another word for folly, is trouble. It grows in the heart of an undisciplined child. Do you think that the children who are out in our society and they're not showing respect for anybody, and they're running around, they're stealing from people, and they're unfortunately even killing people, do you think they were disciplined the way they should have been disciplined? Surely not. If they were, they'd have more respect for other people. The children that are causing problems in our schools need discipline. Now, the proverb writer said that the rod will drive it from them. And I, for one, agree. Yes, kids, I believe in spanking. My mom believed in spanking. My grandmother believed in spanking. My great-grandmother believed in spanking. I believe in spanking. Why do I believe in spanking? Well, let's continue on. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 15 says, "The rod of correction imparts wisdom, but a child left to himself disgraces his mother." Children will learn and learn how to act and how to treat people and how to obey when they are disciplined and properly taught. I don't find anything wrong with corporal punishment at home or at school. God's Word tells us that discipline will impart wisdom. But without discipline, a child disgraces their mother. We see it almost every day. All you have to do is turn on the news. Young men and young women are getting in trouble at school. They're getting in trouble with the law. And it's all because of the lack of discipline. Of course, this can be traced back to the parent or the parents that didn't discipline them. Another reason I believe in discipline is not going to kill anybody. Proverbs chapter 23:13 says, "Do not withhold discipline from your child. If you punish him with the rod, he will not die." Now, I know kids disagree with that. Proper discipline is not going to kill a child. Now, it may hurt physically and emotionally for a short while, but it will get their attention, and it will not cause permanent pain. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." No discipline is fun. If you're being disciplined and it's fun, you're not being properly disciplined. But it's not fun. It's not fun for those receiving, obviously. But kids, whether you believe it or not, it's not fun for the parents either. Now, you may have heard, or you may have even said to your child at one point, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." How many of you said that? I'm sure there's a lot of kids that have heard that too. Well, as a child, I remember thinking, yeah, right. Because it hurt. But as a parent, I understand exactly what my mom meant. Mom used that phrase a lot more than Dad. Dad usually didn't take the time to stop and explain to me what was going on. I usually knew what I was getting in trouble for. And if I didn't, he would whip first and explain later. Mom was usually the one who, she had to think about my punishment for a little while. And if you've ever experienced that, that can be the worst part of the punishment. What is she going to do? My mom's favorite line, other than "this hurts me more than it hurts you," was, "If you don't straighten up, I'm going to tell your dad." And that usually right then and there scared the trouble out of me. I guess that's a good way to put it. It scared the trouble out of me. I learned to behave when Mom said, "I'm going to tell your dad." But discipline, though not pleasant, has a lasting positive effect. Now, there was a study that recently came out, and this isn't in my notes, but I just recently read it this week. It's a study that came out through, I think it was a university in Germany, that came out, said that there were long-term negative effects to disciplining a child by spanking them. That there are long-term negative emotional effects to that, which is totally contrary to Scripture, and it's totally contrary to the evidence in our society. Because you go back and you look at times when corporal punishment, as they call it in the schools, was used in the schools. Also when it was used at home. We didn't have children acting like they act today. Nowadays, schools have to get written permission, or they have to call and speak to a parent or guardian beforehand. But when I got paddled at school, there was a letter sent home, and a phone call was made after I left the office. Yes, kids, I did get paddled in school. I wasn't always perfect. I'm just kidding. But there was no call ahead of time and ask for permission. Because it was part of life. It was part of discipline. Those who are properly disciplined will not depart from what they're taught. It will teach discipline to the children. It will teach them what they need to know. It's positive. It will bring a righteousness and a peace that will go from generation to generation. Disciplined children will bring joy. Well, imagine that. Disciplined children will bring joy. In Proverbs chapter 29, verse 17, it says, "Discipline your son, and he will give you peace. He will bring delight to your soul." Without discipline, a child disgraces their mother. But with discipline, they give their mothers peace. They give their mothers delight to their soul. Mothers who discipline their children tend not to worry as much because they know that their child will do the right thing. They know that their children will respect others. They know that their children will respect authorities. Disciplined children will make their mothers proud. They'll look good to other people. Well-behaved child are a delight. Not just to their mothers, but to those around them as well. Proverbs 19:18. Discipline your son, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to his death. The mothers who, when they properly discipline their child, they will have hope. They'll have peace. Their children will continue to do what's right. As I said, mothers with disciplined children tend to worry less about their children. But we see it all too often in our society today. Undisciplined children are getting themselves killed. Be it by other undisciplined children, unfortunately by authorities. Seems like in the past couple of years you haven't been able to turn on the TV and watch the news without there being some story of some young person getting themselves killed by a police officer. It happens all too often in our society. And it's all because they didn't have discipline. And also, all too often, we turn on the TV and we watch these interviews with these mothers who are grieving because their child has been killed. However, unfortunately, in our society as well, you hardly ever, if ever, see a mother blaming her child. This is the instances that I talked about. They're attacking police officers. They never blame their child. They always blame somebody else. They never take responsibility. But if these children were disciplined with proper discipline in the home, they would never disrespect, much less attack, a police officer. I don't know about you, but I know of children that have raised their hand to their parents. I never in my life dreamed of raising my hand to either one of my parents. Because if I had, I would be missing a few teeth. My nose would, of course my nose isn't straight anyway because it was broken playing basketball, but it probably wouldn't be there. And I would probably be missing an arm or two. Never crossed my mind to raise a hand to my parent. Never crossed my mind to raise a hand to a teacher. Never crossed my mind to argue or physically get into a confrontation with a police officer. Now, I've made mistakes and I've done some stupid stuff. But my parents did a good job in raising me to know that I am to respect other people. I am to respect other people's property. I am to respect authority. I am to say yes ma'am and no ma'am and yes sir and no sir and please and thank you. And I get in conversations with people sometimes and I tend to use Mr. and Mrs. if I don't know them very well, or if I don't have somewhat of a personal relationship with them. And I've been told many times, don't use that term. That term belonged to my dad, or that term belonged to my mother, but that's a thing of respect. That's why it is so important for the women in our church to step up and step in. Because we know there are mothers out there who can't or won't discipline their children. Therefore, it is up to you as mothers and grandmothers to step up and step in. Now, I know that this can cause problems in our society, but God tells us to help those in need. And if they're in need of discipline, if they're in need of a mother who loves and cares for them, if they're in need of a role model, then that's what we're supposed to provide. We need more caring, Christian, Christ-following, loving, disciplined mothers to step up and step in our society. Not just at home, but in the community as well. Many mothers have left the disciplines up to the fathers. And it shouldn't be that way either. Yes, fathers should discipline their children, but mothers are just as responsible. Unfortunately, many mothers are failing their responsibility. Many fathers are absent, which leaves us with many undisciplined children. Mothers and grandmothers in our churches need to figure out how to step up, how to step in when it's necessary to help, to reintroduce discipline into our society. Since discipline is necessary both at home and the community, it's necessary for the women in our church to help. But the ladies, you also have another responsibility specifically to your community. You are to mentor others. Mentoring is something that we hear a lot about with the men in the church. Fathers mentor their children. The leaders of the church are to mentor young men to help them to prepare to become future leaders in the church. Men in business are mentoring other men, and the same should be done by the women in our church. In Titus chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, it says, "Likewise, teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Then they can train the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God." Paul told Titus, and he also told Timothy, and he gave them the charge of teaching the older women to be good examples to others. Now, a lot of times this refers to new Christians, but it's a good reminder for those that have been Christians forever. But we're to teach them not to be gossips, not to be addicted to a lot of alcohol. As position of your minister, I have that same responsibility. Luckily for me, I haven't had to deal with much of this in our church yet. Many of you are good examples. We've had some issues with gossip, and I've addressed that from the pulpit before. Didn't call out names, didn't point fingers, just addressed it as a whole. I don't feel that I have to address alcohol at this point. If I do, let me know. If you are struggling with this, come and talk to me. And privately, and I help you any way we can. I really don't feel that I have to address it at this point. Like I said, if I do, let me know. And that's my responsibility. It's also the responsibility of the elders of our church. However, for the mothers who are a good example, you have a responsibility to the young women in our church and the young women in our community. You have a responsibility to mentor them. Now, how many of you have seen the movie War Room? War Room. If you haven't seen it, I advise you to see it. It's basically the story of this older lady who has all intents and purposes of selling her house, and she happens to have a young woman who is her real estate agent. And she makes the decision, she had been praying for a long time, that God would introduce somebody into her life that she could mentor. And she ended up changing this woman's life through mentoring her. It's a good example to all of us, men and women as well. If you don't have somebody that you can mentor, pray that God will bring somebody into your life that you can mentor. Look for ways to find somebody to mentor. You are to teach the younger women how to live responsibly, how to treat their husbands and children, how to discipline their children, how to be good examples in their lives. You are to mentor the younger women to be self-controlled, to be pure by showing them how to read, how to study, and how to obey God's word. The younger women in our congregation, the younger women in our community may not know how to do that. It's up to the mothers, it's up to the ladies of our congregation to help them, to train them, to teach them. You are to teach them about their responsibilities at home. which includes how to discipline their children. You are to mentor them how to follow their husband's spiritual leadership. Again, unfortunately in our society, many young women may be mothers without husbands. Maybe they're mothers and they're married and they don't have a believing husband. Our society needs the older ladies of our church, the mothers and the grandmothers of our church, to step up and step in and mentor these young women. It can be difficult, I know. Let's face it, many of us will be lost without our mothers. Not just spiritually lost, but many of us would be lost in our lives without our mothers. Without our mothers, many of us wouldn't know how to cook, wouldn't know how to wash clothes, wouldn't know how to do dishes. We wouldn't be able to be good mothers and even good fathers without our mothers, without the examples that our mothers set for us. Unfortunately, there are many in our society today that are lost. They're without discipline. And we need the women in our church, the mothers and the grandmothers in our church, to step up and step in. We need the women of the church to discipline their children, to help discipline the children that are not disciplined at home. I know that this sounds like a tall responsibility. But without mothers to step up and step in, our society is going to continue to lose our children. We're going to continue to see children disrespect life, disrespect property, disrespect authority, and live their lives in daily danger. Not just spiritual danger, but physical danger. We need mothers to mentor mothers. We need grandmothers to mentor mothers. Your children may be grown. You may not have grandchildren of your own, or you may. But there are many in our community that would just love to have somebody to step up, step into their lives, to discipline them, to love them, to teach them, to care for them, and to mentor them. So this morning, I call on all mothers to find a way in your community where you can step up and step in, where you can help to reach the young women and children, where you can help them to grow in the way they should grow, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it, so they can bring peace and joy to you, to their mothers, and to others around them. As I said, I know this sounds difficult. This may even sound impossible. But if you truly want to impact our community, this is a good way to do it. Ask God to open the necessary doors. He will take the impossible. He will make it possible if we're willing to follow Him. If you're willing to step up and step into a child's life. Today we celebrate our mothers on Mother's Day. We cannot forget the sacrifices that our mothers made for us. We need to remember those who either no longer have mothers or who have mothers that aren't willing to sacrifice. And God calls for us to step up, to step in. Many mothers have prayed for the salvation of their children, to pray for the salvation of their grandchildren. Many children and grandchildren are saved today because of the prayers of their mothers and their grandmothers. So this morning I call for you to step up. Step in, not just within your family, but within your community as well. Pray that God will open the door for you. Pray that God will guide somebody to you that you can mentor. Pray that God will lead you to somebody that you can mentor. Pray that He'll lead you to an organization that has its doors open, that's looking for mothers and grandmothers to step up and step in. That's looking for mothers and grandmothers to help these children that need mothers and grandmothers to step up and step in.